If by any chance you're like me, an adult living in tropical Africa, and you're always diagnosed of malaria and typhoid literally every month, please pay attention to your food. There are several ways that we can be poisoned. Chief amongst them is through food, the food we eat. Basically, I'm talking about bacterial poisoning because I was being poisoned by salmonella. I was having salmonella poisoning basically every time. Salmonella poisoning can be called salmonellosis, okay? So the big question is, how did I find out? I paid attention to the way I was handling my food, literally animal products like meat, like milk, like eggs. Those foods I love eating, okay? And I watched the pattern of me eating them and the sickness is coming back to me. You see, salmonellosis is caused by bacteria closely related to the bacteria that causes typhoid in human beings. They are all salmonella bacteria, but different strains of salmonella bacteria. Okay, so the symptoms are usually very similar. You get abdominal pains, you get fever, you get diarrhea, you always be sick, and you will think maybe it's typhoid and malaria. Your mind wouldn't even go to the fact that it could be food poisoning. Nobody thinks about those things here. When people talk about food poisoning in Africa, we usually assume it's chemical poisoning where someone puts a chemical into your food so that you can eat and die. No, that is not the poisoning I'm talking about, but I know that's the poisoning that usually comes to mind. So how do you prevent poisoning from salmonellosis? The best way to prevent poisoning from salmonellosis is to take care of the way you handle your food, the food you eat, especially animal products like meats, egg, and milk. Because the way we prepare them, the way they come to us, most of these meats, they are slaughtered in an unhygienic environment. And once meat or animal products comes in contact with feces or manure, they might be contaminated. They have higher chances of getting contaminated with the salmonella organism, and once you eat it, you become sick. Yes, the best way I find to control salmonella poisoning for me, from my experience, is to wash my meat very well and boil it at the right temperature. The right temperature for cooking food to avoid salmonella poisoning is between 64 degrees centigrade and 73 degrees centigrade. And let me explain it in a very practical way. What I do is that I boil my meat for at least 40 to 45 minutes with medium low heat, okay, so that I don't go, because what I used to do then was I will be boiling meat 5 minutes, 10 minutes into boiling meat. You will see me right in the pot because my longer throat will not allow me rest. I want to test that meat, so I end up eating undone meat, and undone meat has a higher potential of giving you infections because the meat has not been thoroughly been cooked. You understand, the bacteria is still very active inside the meat, and once you eat it, you come down with salmonellosis. Another practical way you can avoid getting poisoned by salmonella is to separate your animal meat products and your raw vegetables in the freezer or in the fridge. Just put them in different compartments. You can get a covered plastic bowl for putting your meat, so that once the meat starts thawing or defrosting in the meat, because this is Nigeria, there's no light, sometimes there's no constant power supply, because sometimes you find out that when there's no light, the meat will start thawing, the fluids start releasing fluids. Those fluids are rich with bacteria. You don't want it coming in contact with your food items in the fridge, especially food items that you don't cook, like your salad items, like your carrots, your cucumber, your cabbage. You don't cook them, okay? So once this the bacteria rich fluid comes in contact with all those raw vegetables, and then you wash them. Washing doesn't do anything to bacteria. Washing, the bacteria are still there, okay? And then you think you've washed it, probably you would use salt, do all the whole Nigerian thing, and then you eat the vegetable. After a couple of days, you end up being sick, and then you start blaming poor malaria. malaria has suffered in our hands. Malaria has really suffered. So that's what I do. I just compartmentalize my meat and my vegetables differently. And then when I'm cooking my food, especially with meat and animal products, I make sure I cook thoroughly to to kill the bacteria. And the next thing I do is, once I'm like, there was a mistake I used to make. If I'm making eggs, like, I'll break my egg in a bowl and then mix everything with vegetables and all that, and then pour into the frying pan. Once I pour into the frying pan, the next thing I do is quickly take the bowl into the sink, rinse so quickly, rinse in a hurry. I don't even use soap. And then the same bowl that I used to break the egg is the same bowl I will bring out the egg and serve my egg into. And it's not right. Okay, you should wash all your plates, have all utensils, every bowl that has come in contact with animal products like meat, like egg, like milk. You should wash it generously with liquid soap or detergent. Wash thoroughly so that the bacteria will be killed by the detergent. Okay, you don't want to be loading bacteria, because especially animal products, all these animal products, they are very rich with salmonella organisms, and these salmonella organisms are what causes salmonella poisoning. You will eat food and then you will get sick. Is that worth it? It's not worth it at all. From experience, I've found out that it isn't worth it. So the next thing I do to prevent salmonella poisoning is this raw milk from the cow. The Fulanis milk the cows, and then they sell the milk from the cows, like they hawk it on their head in the open air, and they basically use the same dishes, the same set of dishes. They might carry like three bowls that they use in serving this thing to the whole public. They might carry like three bowls, and then they just carry a little amount of water in gallon, the same spoon and the same bowl that one person uses. They just rinse it with water without soap or anything. The same bowl is what the next person is going to use. So I marvel. I don't usually buy this nunu because of the unhygienic process that I've seen the milkmaids do. I don't usually buy it, but if you must take nunu, I always advise to please boil this nunu, boil it, buy it and reboil at home. You can add water and reboil it to kill off all the bacterial organisms or spores that might be inside the nunu. I do not advise it at all. If I want to take milk, I usually go for canned milk, powdered milk, or yogurt that has NAFDAC number. I can't I'm sorry, I just can't see myself anytime in the future taking this nunu hawked in the open space, because milk, like other animal products, are huge avenues for bacteria to thrive. Bacteria love animal products because they are rich in proteins. Bacteria is a living thing, and like other living things, they thrive well when there is a generous amount of protein. So that's why you see blood, you see egg, you see meat, you see fish. Bacteria always thriving there. When I was in school during my veterinary microbiology practicals, most of the most of the cultures for bacteria are usually they'll tell you meat, agar, blah 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 blah. It's usually meat. It's usually things that are filled with proteins that this bacteria love. So always be careful with your animal products. Okay, make sure you're handling them in the most hygienic way to prevent poisoning. Now, I use myself as an example. Ever since I paid um care to how I prepare my food, I've stopped getting sick dramatically. I can't remember the last time I've been sick because I paid careful attention to how I prepare my food, how I wash my utensils, and how I wash my hands. Washing hands is one of the most underrated things you can do for yourself. People don't talk about washing hands a lot, because this salmonella is usually spread by all these contaminated animal products, or any food item that's come in contact with feces or manure of animals. So once you touch meat, once you touch anything, just wash your hands. Even you going to the toilet and then you finish using the toilet, you should wash your hands, because if you don't wash your hands frequently, you predispose yourself to getting sick. And I'm not just talking about salmonella poisoning, I'm talking about basically every other bacterial illnesses, viral illnesses that's out there. Washing hands is one of the most underrated steps, and I think that's one of the steps that have helped me. And then I do this for people. I tell people wash hands a lot. I think if I'm guilty of one thing in this life, is washing my hands frequently. The last but not the least step is, guess what? Drink only clean water. Drink the cleanest water you can find, even if it means buying bottled water. I'm not going to lie, I don't take bottled water, but I found a method that works for me. I found a brand of sachet water that works for me, so I take it. You understand? Sachet water is very cheap, it's not as expensive as bottled water, so I take sachet waters a lot. If I can't find a brand of sachet water that I trust, what I do is I fetch tap water and boil. Boiling is one of the cheapest ways you can make your water drinkable. You can make your water bacteria free. Boiling is free, it's cheap. The only thing you waste is maybe your source of fuel, your heat, your charcoal, your gas that you use in boiling the water. So please, my darlings, please do boil your water, or get an alternative like bottled water, like filters. There are water filters in the home. There are several ways you can access clean drinking water. And I hope you found this video very, very helpful. If you've had the same experience with me, please comment below and tell me of your experience. How did you handle yours? And please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like my video, share my video, subscribe, so that when next I post a content like this, you will be the first to know. I love you. Stay safe.